Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve.
All right, welcome. Great to have you with us. So, Nikola Jokic had 40 last night at 13 assists. The Nuggets now have 3 games to 2. They've won 3 in a row. The Knicks resurrected themselves last night. What a performance by Jalen Brunson. He had 44 last night. And after really a team that looked just, physically dead on their feet, just from pure fatigue against Indiana in Game 4, got themselves into high gear last night, and they ran the Pacers off the floor at Madison Square Garden. The Bruins stayed alive. They won 2-1, played really well. The Bruins played smart hockey last night, and they did something last night to get this thing back to Boston. The Bruins have really struggled during the season, but also in the playoffs in particular, with getting the puck out of their own zone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a pure clear out of the zone. Get the puck out of the zone, get it back to even to neutral ice. And the Bruins have been turning the puck over and over again, and that has cost them over and over again. Not last night. They were able to get the puck out of the zone, get the puck down to the other. And the goal that put them in front was a beautifully played. And McAvoy scored the goal. And McAvoy hadn't had a shot in the series. This guy's an offensive defenseman. He had not had a shot in the series until last night, and he had a goal and he had a goal and assist last night. And then, of all things, Edmonton, which is the team that you feel like needs 6 and 7 goals to win, won 3-2 last night over Vancouver, tied that series at 2 apiece. So that's where they are. At this point, yes, Caitlin Clark made her debut last night. Yes, you'll see she had 20. She had 10 turnovers.
It's a record.
Last night.
It's not a record you want.
Right. It's like, okay. So it's just a start, right? That's all it is.
Absolutely.
It's just a start, and she'll be fine in the league. But she's playing bigger, stronger, faster players now, older.
Absolutely.
And Doug Gottlieb has been hired as the head basketball coach at Wisconsin Green Bay. How about that? He's wanted to coach.
Absolutely.
He's been wanting to coach.
A great basketball mind, too. I think the way he analyzes and breaks things down, there's no question he's got the mind to do it. But we'll see. He's wanted to coach. Now he's going to get that opportunity.
Right. He gets that opportunity right here. Okay. So I want to get to the Cal thing here in a moment, because this is an important story, and it sounds like the number is not going to be as disastrous as we talked earlier. Oh, for goodness sakes. Says here I have to set my password. Why do I have to set my password? I already renewed the subscription to it.
Exactly.
It's like, I have to set my password? Hey, I already gave you the money.
We are not as secure as we'd hope, so just enter your password again so we make sure we know what we're doing.
Exactly. But it's going to be finalized tomorrow. But then there's the Ross Dellinger story. And this goes back to what I've been talking about. Look, talking about games is so much more fun. I know I talk a lot about money. Because you can't make things happen without it. And it's shaping what we're doing out there. Just as simple as a TV contract. For example, if NBC gets the NBA and TNT's out, that shapes you as a viewer. All right? Unless you're like, you're like Jason here, where you're constantly stealing cable.
I have always said.
I mean, what are you doing? I don't understand. Your habits are just. I mean, come on.
I always said that these people, the ones that do the old, you don't need Sunday ticket. You just find it on here, and there. I said, no, I would be the one that would get caught.
These are
there could be 29 million people that stream illegally. I would be the one that got caught. There's no chance
I'm telling you right now. It's just like,
no chance I would try.
You have bad habits. All right? Every time I turn around, you're like, I saw this game. I saw that game. How'd you see that? Oh, I got an NBA ticket. How'd you get an NBA ticket? I stole cable. Like, really? Okay. By the way, Netflix is getting NFL Christmas Day games.
So that's confirmed. Yeah. Sounded like it was almost a done deal. So they're going to get both of them.
Yes, they're going to get both games on Christmas Day, which means that there's going to be a fire in the fireplace, and I'm just going to...
And I'm going to watch the NBA.
All right, and, I may watch a movie.
Yeah, I'm not... I do not have Netflix, and then my plans are not to get Netflix.
No, I don't. No,
I don't.
No, I don't have Netflix.
I'm sure it will air at some point somewhere that week, and I can watch it and break it down if I have to.
I don't get it.
I get it. It's an example of the NFL and other places that are basically saying, hey, we want to advance technology further than you guys, the casual audience, which is the diehard audience. We want to force the streaming quicker because it's not working as well as we'd hoped so far. Now, granted, Amazon Thursday Night Football has worked pretty well. I think that's a contract. That's a contract that's there, and you know it. That's why. Right. But in terms of they
took the least watched games.
Sure,
and they put it.
Yeah,
that's.
But
fine.
This is not. Yeah, this is a night. Christmas Day is a day where everybody's going to be home. Not everybody. I can't say that, but I think a good chunk of people are going to be home. And, I think there's...
I think you're going to be watching a bar, right?
But there's a bar open on Christmas Day. That bar is going to get shut down by the public quick. But unless it sells the lottery.
These are your people.
Unless it sells the lottery, then you have an excuse. But if you sell the lottery, you have an excuse. But I think in terms of... I just think ultimately they know that streaming's not working as well as they'd hope. Not that it's not working, it's progressing. It's just not far enough ahead as much as they think it is. So now they're trying to, okay, let's move it as quick. Let's just try to force it that people are going to subscribe. And it's like, and as I use the example of electric cars and gas prices, at some point people say, hey, I'll take an alternative. And that's what you're going to do. You're not these, especially the older audience, which you're ignoring with the streaming without question. Well, they're not going to do it.
I will give you an electric car example here. So let's start with that. This is an electric car example. I did just buy a new car. And when I was there, just in chit-chatting with the salesperson, I said, Chris, I said, are you guys selling electric cars at all? He says, no, we stopped. I said, you stopped? He says, we sold. I said, so when you had them, how many did you sold? He said, you know how many they sold in a year? Half dozen.
In a year.
Jeez. In a year.
Well, I think.
And so now, okay, that's where it goes back now to the streaming part of it. The streaming part of it is not, the streaming part of it is not on the same level as buying a car because of the investment it takes to buy a car. But what it is that the electric car example is also an example of, yes, are there some people that will stream? Yeah. But you're cutting off millions of people who would like to watch the game on Christmas Day that are not going to sit there and watch it on Netflix.
Absolutely.
They're just not going to. Right? And it's not because of... Everybody acts like cable subscriptions are down to like 5 million. That's the impression you get.
Yeah.
You know what cable subscriptions are? Yeah. Almost 80 million in this country.
They're down, but they're not down that far.
They're 80 million.
cable and satellite still have subscribers out there that are, absolutely. And you're paying, in my opinion, too much for television to begin with. And now you're adding on streaming.
That's what cracks me up. I'll ask people about streaming, and they'll tell me over and and then I say, well, how much does it all add up to with everything you're getting? Well, I've got Amazon, and I've got Hulu, and I've got Netflix. I've got also, like, it adds up to almost what your cable bill is anyway. I'm not here doing a cable this is not a cable commercial, but I'm saying the NFL, which has made its strong reputation on over-the-air TV, is taking Christmas Day, and like they did with the playoff game last year, and they're trying to make a point. And there's going to be
that's my point. They're trying to make a point.
And
there's
exactly going to be there'll be a press release.
Yeah, which they just did. Yeah.
No, there'll be a press release after the games are over,
the games,
telling us that is an all-time streaming record.
Yeah.
Now, it may not. Now, maybe it doesn't break the record of the playoff game, but it'll be the press release at minimum will say it is the biggest Netflix streaming performance ever.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
if let's assume the rumors are true and it's Chiefs Steelers Christmas Day.
Yeah.
That would draw incredible ratings.
Yeah,
incredible ratings on television.
I know.
And you're losing that. There's also radio. People can tune into that. There's a lot of ways people have alternatives to streaming. And I think the NFL probably arrogantly knows that, but doesn't think of it. I think that's probably the easiest way to look at it. I think they still have that feeling of their invincibility. That, we're the NFL. We're just going to force people to do everything. Well, at some point, they're not going to do it.
Yeah. So we knew they were going to do it. So that's not so this is not a shocker. We've talked about the Netflix thing now ever since Boomer Esiason floated it 2 weeks ago. But this is what they're doing. And you can't get to a point as a business where you think you can do anything and force it upon people. All right? And so far to this point, they've been able to, quote, get away with it? Okay.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. They can get away with it, and you can, as of now, prior to the playoff game being on Peacock, I think you could get away with it. Even having that Peacock-only game that one Saturday, I think that's fine. But when you get into the playoffs and you take the Chiefs and Dolphins away from normal television to put it on streaming, you take Christmas Day away, you're taking your big things away for streaming, that's where I think it's going to reach a point where you're not going to get away with it. They've not reached that point yet. I think they will at some point.
All right, so now let's get to Calamoni. Calamoni. Yes, this is Cal and UCLA. So I refer to it as Calamoni. The original proposal was 6 years, $10 million per year. They have decided that it's going to be $10 million a year for 3 years, $30 million. And then at the end of the 3 years, they will revisit it. Great. So UCLA is expected to make roughly 3 times what Cal is going to get. They're actually going to make more than that. And the contracts run through 29-30, as we know. For now, UCLA will pocket $10 million less than the current Big Ten schools for the next 3 years. This, of course, is on top of the increased expenses. It is anticipated, and this is a quote here, this is Michael Drake, who's the president, chancellor of Cal, whatever the title is. I believe it's president. It is anticipated that there will be approximately $50 million difference between UCLA's Big Ten contract and UC Berkeley's agreement with the ACC. As a result, the president is proposing that UCLA contribute $10 million a year to Cal Berkeley, the top end of the range established by the Board of Regents in 2022. All right. And again, remember, UCLA at one point had a $104 million deficit in its athletic department. Okay? For the fifth straight year, they ended up in the red in athletics. You want to know what the number was in fiscal year 2023? And again, you can go to this inequity in athletics. It's there. Okay? People keep telling me they can't find numbers. Like, try harder.
Try harder.
Okay? I mean, just try harder.
I agree.
I have people tell me, well, where do you come up with these numbers? I take a couple minutes and I look. Right? I can't find Penn State Athletics numbers, right? They're so secretive. What are you talking about? Go to gopsusports.com. It's there. It's not hidden. Oh, they have this thing called debt service. It's there. It was $10.1 million last year. Okay? Right? They took it out of the reserves. It's there in the note at the bottom of the page. Somebody said, well, you only have that because you have access to it. No, I looked it up myself. You can look the stuff up. You want to know what the UCLA deficit was last year? Fiscal year 2023. Kind of looked like your books. $36.6 million. Man, I think it's appropriate that you're wearing it.
Mine has IOU a lot of times.
Right. I mean, it's appropriate you're wearing a red shirt today because because their finances look like yours. $36.6 million debt in 2023. That's $36.6.
That's
right. Now they're making them give Cal 10.
They're gonna need. I can lend them Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, but I don't know how much I can.
God.
Yeah, they're going to give Cal. Geez.
So it's going to be $10 million a year for the next 3 years. Then they'll revisit it. Well, you know darn well Drake and the company will be there with their hat in hand.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because the next part that's coming up
is going to be
make everything financially worse.
Worse. Absolutely. No question. Nothing goes down.
Right? It's going to be financially worse.
Without a doubt.
Right? And it's going to be, I'm talking about especially for Cal.
Yes.
All right,
sure.
So now let's get to why it's financially worse. Okay, here we go. This will be really enjoyable. Okay, because they have to be careful about a lot of this stuff.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Okay, but nobody's trying to be careful about it. This House lawsuit, all right, is one that it's going to keep, all right, if you go to trial, the numbers are going to be worse. Okay, so settling is exponentially a better solution than going to trial. If they go to trial, then a lot of things they're going to lose. They know it.
Yes.
All right. And so you don't want to go to trial.
Right.
Now the settlement talks are progressing. So the NCAA and its 5 power conferences may lose $20 million in back damages. And they may risk, according to Ross Dellinger, bankruptcy if they reject settlements in the House, Hubbard, and Carter antitrust cases and lose in court. Okay? That's why they need to settle. A 2-page document was put out to all of the power conference leaders, presidents, athletic directors, so forth. And down at Amelia Island, where I believe you have a house.
That's right. 2 of them.
Oh, God, I wouldn't have bragged about it. Jeez. Millen's building a place down at Ponte Vedra. He says, I couldn't get into the Jason Lord neighborhood.
Well, I'll tell you, I'd let him. If he would have buzzed me, I would have let him through.
I said, Matt.
Us Penn Staters stick together. I would have let him through.
I said, Matt, you're better off. I said, it's really where Jason Lord is. Really kind of an arrogant area. He says, that's not you. Right? So the ACC leaders are sitting there, and they are, it's a 2-page document. So Roscott, they basically handed it to him, detailed a proposed settlement in which the NCAA would pay $2.776 million in back damages to athletes for their NIL, name, image, and likeness prior to 2021, when prohibitions against athletes profiting off that were lifted. The $2.776 million would be paid over 10 years, 60% deriving from a reduction in distribution to the schools. Okay? So remember, they get the distribution from the NCAA basketball tournament. Right? When they had a reduction from the 2020 tournament that didn't take place, it really put a lot of athletic departments into a bind. That's when they had a reduction from the tournament, right? Yeah. So 60% would derive from a reduction in distribution to its schools, according to Dellinger. The remaining portion would come by other avenues, noting other means, most notably reserves, and a significant reduction in operating expenses as much as $18 million per year. So far, so I don't know. Pick a word. Now, if the NCAA rejects the settlement, which to me then leads to them losing in court, I'm not a legal expert. I don't even attempt to play one on the radio. I'm just using past performance as my past performance of the NCAA in court is not a good one. That's why.
No, their batting average is a little down.
They previously mentioned $20 billion in back damages instead of 2.776. Right? So that 17.27 billion, right? What a difference that makes in terms of what they're doing, because now you would have to file bankruptcy. So you're trying to keep the bill down. The settlement would give a 10-year grace period. That helps. And it's not just the NCAA that would have to file bankruptcy. If it's $20 billion, conferences may have to file bankruptcy. Whoops. So Pete Thamel of ESPN, Dan Murphy, also of ESPN, they talked about the $2.7 billion over 10 years. Okay? Now, future athlete revenue. This is Pete's tweet. We've used the revenue share under the $20 million for schools in the settlement in the House versus antitrust lawsuits. Per sources, that's determined by a specific number, 22% of various power conference revenues. The revenue buckets formula is still being discussed. So is this 22%? That mean the Big Ten and the SEC are paying more money?
More money.
Versus the 22% for Conference USA?
Yep.
Because Conference USA should not have to pay the same numbers as a power. It's like, it's to be honest with you, it's sort of how it works here. I don't get anywhere near as much as you do.
Well, that's why the NFL training camp holdouts, you learn from the best.
Yeah, I just don't. What are you doing? So it's the 22% part that comes into play. Now, look, the bottom line is the NCAA wants to keep the number down. Any sane operation would. So what this would mean is that the NCAA would have to pay $277 million per year over a 10-year period. All right. So 60% reduced distribution, 40% through the reserves they have, and operating expenses. They could take, Mark Emmert's pension. Just kidding. During the 10-year stretch, school distribution.
You might have lost that already.
Well, during the 10-year stretch, school distribution would drop by $160 million per year. All right. So Dellinger said power conferences are anticipating roughly a $1 to $2 million distribution reduction per year. So that school distribution would be over, it's not per school, because, Penn State's budget is $200 million.
Absolutely.
So if you're knocking it down $1 to $2 million per year, that's palatable, especially for a power school. But it's the $20 million per year you're going to have to start paying that makes such a big difference in all this. Where do you come up with the money? And again, I keep going back to, okay, that's fine. That's why I keep going back. And this is something, I'm going to talk to Pat Kraft about this, because Pat and I have been texting back and forth. And I saw Pat last week, and the restraining order on you was still in effect.
I'll tell you,
it came up.
Unfortunate.
It came up with it. Barkley kept looking around. Like, Steve, is he here? I said, no, he's not here. I said, he didn't make the trip. Actually, he's standing in the rain.
I'll tell you.
All right, just make sure you got security when you go to your car. But I talked to Pat last week about this, and I looked at him and I said, if they're talking that, because they were talking 15 to 20 million, they're now talking about like 20 million seems to be the number. I said, there's no way. So when you sat down to do 3 to 5 year budget projections, we're getting in the elevator at the time. And I said, there's no way that you could have anticipated this even 3 months ago. He says, no way. He says, no way. He says, right? And that's why I didn't bring it up to him then, because we were talking about the stadium at that point, and we're going to talk more about the stadium because the board's going to vote next week. But this is where, for example, the stadium is a long-term play, and the stadium fits with what I've talked about many times. And I brought this up because Pat's out of town, but I texted him yesterday, and I told him, I said, look, I said, this is my opinion. I said, your spending and your investments have to match your expectations. Right? And that, look at Cal. Their investment has met their expectations. They right now are in a world of hurt. Thus, they go up with hat in hand, asking another entity to help pay for what they're doing. Really? Really? Because UCLA is going to have to come up with this $20 million. They're going to have to come up with $20 million a year, and they got to give Cal 10.
Cal 10 of it.
On top of no. They have to give 20.
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
For their athletes.
What's the
10 to Cal.
Yeah, so 30.
So it's 30.
Yeah.
Right? Great. Fabulous. Wonderful. Right? And they're not even in the conference. They're in the ACC. Okay, guess what? Here are the sheets. Okay? Here are the blankets. Make your own bed. Right? Okay?
Yeah.
So they're going to have to come up with this. Which makes it worse. Because there's no way Cal can afford to do this.
No.
There's no way. Okay? And I don't want to hear about like school endowments, things like that. Like for example, Harvard's $40 billion. I think that's what Harvard's is, and I think Stanford has a gigantic endowment. But that endowment is for other things.
Your own things, yeah.
Okay, when it comes to athletics, you need to be a part of the deals and take care of that. Yeah. Not be dipping into endowments unless there's a specific endowment for your athletic programs. All right. When it comes to athletics, Penn State pre-NIL was third in the nation in endowments, athletic endowments. Third. People have been very generous. And this is, and I said, Pat, there's no way you budgeted for it. He says, no, it's just nobody has. He says, that's why we have to come up with ways to make this work. That's why, and I didn't mention this to him then, but I will the next time I talk to him. But you need to have an exponentially more wide open rule on your ability to sell programs. And that means not just corporate sponsors in the stadium, which Learfield did a great job with, and Playfly is already in the process of doing a great job with. So that's okay. You've had a great partner. You now have a new partner that's great as well. But you have to have the ability to come up with other revenue streams. That's why I've been talking about the jersey patch. Right? Because in doing the jersey patch research, I'm seeing figures of $10 million a year, $15 million a year. Now these are pro teams, but these are pro teams that look at Penn State. Okay, just take the football part of it. Let's just do football for the moment. From 2016 to 2023, Penn State is sixth in total viewership in the NCAA with 241 million viewers. Now, obviously, some of them are the same ones over and over and over again, all right? But the total number is 241 million viewers from 2016 to 2023. You put something on a jersey in a 3x3 area. The Celtics, I mentioned, they have Vistaprint. The Warriors have Rakuten. Because I see you've bought a lot of stuff over time. I mean, it's like, I said, what did you need printed? He says, nothing, but I saw the Celtics game. You're so easily, it's stunning to see how easily you. And just that, what's the value of that? Okay, the NBA is obviously an 82-game season. But the regular season ratings are not the same as the playoffs. And Penn State's out there cranking out nearly 4 million viewers a week. Same thing with Ohio State, same thing with Michigan. There's value in that. There's value. Imagine now you go to the NCAA tournament. In basketball, value? Penn State played Texas a year ago. Okay, and we talk about how great the women's basketball ratings were. Second round game, 6.6 million viewers. That doesn't have value? Now, does it deface the uniform? Which, of course, goes back to the old swoosh days with Nike. Oh, look at that swoosh on there. It's like, oh, just calm down. Okay? Guess what? Okay? By going this route, you don't have to keep going back to your donors. You got to find the $20 million. Okay? You don't have to keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's plenty of ways.
There are ways to do it.
Absolutely.
And this is, to me, after seeing the success of it, if the New York Yankees, I know these are professional teams, if the New York Yankees can put on their jersey, on the sleeve, sponsorship, And if the Montreal Canadiens, I know they haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1993, right?
Won quite a few of them, though.
Right? Or the Pittsburgh Penguins can put on a patch, more recent Stanley Cup champion, right? Can put on a patch, right? And if the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James can have a patch on the jerseys, and this is where the NBA was ahead of the curve. They did this first. Now, the NFL does not do it for games. They do it with their practice jerseys. And then they make you buy Netflix on Christmas Day.
Which I will not be doing.
Oh, listen to you. You'll cave. No. You'll cave. No, you'll cave.
Nah. The 49ers were playing, I'd figure out a way to watch it somehow.
Well, that's because you steal cable, going back to the original part of the show. But you have to come up with ways to do it.
Yeah.
Okay? Pat's already negotiated the new radio deal, which starts at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Right? Is a big plus financially. There's no getting around it. And I'm not going to get into the numbers. That is Penn State's obligation if they wish to talk about numbers. It's not, okay? I just know what the numbers are, and I'll leave it at that. It really helps. Is it a game changer? Well, before this, it could have been, but it really helps. But you have to come up with other ways. The stadium is a big part of it. Again, you need to have your investment match your expectations, no matter what you're doing. And I've always used this as an example about my late father. This is back in the early 90s. I was in there one day at my dad's shop. He had a sheet metal fabrication shop. Started it from scratch. Hired really good people, so you would have been out. Can you sweep floors? No, I'm just kidding. You would have been good. Can you do any of that stuff with your hands? Seriously.
Some of it, yeah. Some of it, yeah. Yep.
All right. So, I mean, look, when I was younger, in college and high school even, I worked in there. Mm-hmm. Right? Welding, parts, templates, blueprints. I could actually do it. Right? But one day I went in there, I think I was on vacation or whatever, and this huge press brake is in there. Press brakes bend parts, just so people know. All right. I said, wow, Dad, some machine. He says, yeah. He says, cost me $1 million. Now remember, this is in the 90s. This is not $1 million now. Okay? Cost me about $1 million. I said, cost you $1 million? Wow, Dad. He says, no, Steve. He says, the idea is, he says, that's going to pay for itself. All right. And then some. He said, that's the whole idea. It's going to pay for itself and then some. See, my dad's expectations, okay, right? His investment matched his expectations. And by the way, the machine paid for itself. That machine was in constant use over and over and over and over again. It made a lot of money off that, right? But that's because his idea of what he needed to invest met his expectations. That's how a business. That's how a businessman thinks.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's how a business person thinks. Right? They look at risk, reward, and they say, "What are our expectations?" And that's what he did. Right? And I use that as an example. Oh, sure, it's a small operation and so forth, but you know what? $1 million back in the early 1990s was not $1 million today. I mean, that's worth exponentially more today. But his expectations were here.
Yeah.
And he invested to his expectations.
So yeah, I do. Absolutely.
Right? And now I look at the stadium. Yeah, it's a gigantic price tag. Right? But guess what?
Yeah.
So are the expectations here.
Yep.
Gigantic. Right? And that stadium will have the ability, should it be done right, and it was shown in the Luke Combs concert.
Yeah. Other
ways that you can use it.
Yep.
So that you are making money and it's not just sitting idle during the off season. And
I felt like they learned. First concert, I think they took that as a learning experience, took it into Luke Combs and showed what they learned, I think, in a big way.
Right. But, okay, Penn State football and Penn State athletics has high expectations.
Absolutely.
Fan base has high expectations. Coaches have high expectations. The administration has high expectations. Their investment is matching those expectations. That's what this is about. Right?
Yeah.
You want to lower your expectations? Fine. You can lower your expectations, right? But don't be the first one to complain when you're finishing middle of the pack. Okay? Don't. Don't want to hear you. Well, you guys said that we can't do this. Okay.
It's the old cliche, and almost honestly a fact. To make money, you have to spend money.
No question.
There's not a doubt. When you fail to do that second part, there will be consequences that suffer with the other part.
Well said. Well said. And one other note, by the way, and that is on Greg Olson. Greg Olson has done a brilliant job with Fox, but is going to be replaced by Tom Brady. It will not be a three-man booth. They're going to pair up Greg Olson with Joe Davis. Joe's incredible. Joe is an excellent announcer, and I've run into Joe a few times between basketball and on football. And Joe is one of those well-prepared, excellent announcer, zero ego guy. Zero. Joe is just a down-to-earth, zero ego guy. Really have a lot of respect for him. And so that's who Greg Olson is going to be with. Now, for Fox, that provides a lot of depth. But look, Tom Brady's going to have to be good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's going to be on top games.
He will be. But, yeah, he's going to have to, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and we'll go from there. But that's what ended up happening with him. All right. By the way, Bronny James, my dream has always been to put my name out, make a name for myself, and, of course, get to the NBA, which is everyone's end goal that's here. I never thought about playing with my dad, but, of course, he's brought that up a couple of times. Okay. I give him credit. That's a really honest answer.
That's yeah.
All right. It's been a show where we learned a lot more about your finances.
That's right.
It really wasn't a pretty picture. Right. I mean, did you really feel like you needed 8-foot massagers?
Well, yeah, you wanted to make sure you got the right one.
It's such a scary show. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks.